Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Close Traffic Podcast. It's Mike, Charlie, and Johnny. Hope you are all well. As always, I've got to throw it over to my co-host so they can introduce themselves. Charlie, say what's up to the people, man.
Hello, hello. How's
Johnny,
everybody doing?
how are you doing, sir?
Awkward silence. So, hey, it's Johnny.
Never
Johnny's
fails.
sending it.
Never fails. This is the third podcast or show in a row where Johnny is like part sleeping when it's time for the introduction.
Well, how is it me? I was waiting on Charlie because you started with Charlie. Then it's supposed to roll to me. But you know what? Anywho, enough of Mike. Mike, hey, CTP family, how's it going? Hope all is well. Hope everyone's staying cool because it's about 100 and some odd degrees here in Texas, and my ceiling fan is melting above me. So, but aside from that, I got the whole crew here. I know it's like herding cats to get all of us together. So it's definitely an event indeed to get the whole team there. But Mike, man, how have you been, brother?
I am just fine, man. It's about 101 degrees here too, but we have the dry California heat, so it's not terrible. It's not terrible. 101 is 101 anywhere, right? But it's certainly not as bad as where you are, my friend.
Mm-hmm.
My condolences.
Mm-hmm. Oh man, then Charlie, go Bulldogs. Got you there, man. Right. See in the background. Yep.
There you go.
Charlie, 5 weeks to go, huh?
5 weeks. Woo.
You ready? What's the
I can get there.
What's the over and under playoffs for you guys this year?
Man, a lot of folks are calling it national championship again. 3-peat.
I can see it. I can see it.
Man, it's so tough in the SEC though, man. Wait till next year. Next year will be interesting.
Yeah, that'll be the true test. Anyway, enough of the three of us.
That's right.
I know that's not why you all came here to see us today. Given the numbers I'm seeing here, generally it's far less at the beginning of a show. We've got, without further ado, Dwight and Thomas from the Yawman team. Thomas, Dwight, thanks again for joining us today. I'll let you two duke it out to see who wants to introduce themselves first.
Thomas invented it, so I'll let him go first.
Okay. All right. So so I'm Thomas. I'm the engineering lead for Yawman, and I'm very happy to be here. Thanks for bringing us on the show. This is a lot of fun. So I am the one who conceptualized the Yawman and built it in the garage. Of course, I learned that's the easy part. Trying to manufacture is usually what most of the work is. And we're getting really close to delivering the Yawman Arrow. So for those of you who haven't heard of this controller, it's a handheld flight simulation device, and we will definitely
Oh, am I frozen?
Oh, I thought it was me. No, I thought it was
me. You explicitly said I have a good, strong internet connection, so I guess Thomas dropped the ball on that one. That's okay. Watch it happen to me next.
All good. That's his way of. That's his segue to you. That's what it is.
Yeah. Our turn. To jump on what Thomas was saying, I am the supply chain ops lead for Yawman. When Thomas had built this in his garage, he was like, okay, yeah, now we have to manufacture this. So with my experience in supply chain management for the commercial aviation, he asked if I would help and build that process. So that's why I'm here.
Cool.
Nice. Wow. That's awesome. While we get Thomas back, Dwight, obviously, right, you just mentioned, you have a background in supply chain management. Thomas, thanks for joining us again.
Oh, you're welcome. Yeah. I'm a pro. These things happen.
We were just talking about this right before the show started in the green room. But yeah, it's, Dwight, outside of that, sort of what do you have any overall interest in I would assume so, but overall interest in aviation, sort of any sort of background related to aviation, even if it's a hobby, from a hobby standpoint?
Yeah. So what initially got my interest in aviation was Southwest Airlines back in grade school would do this a program called Adopt a Pilot, and so that was the first time I ever got experience with aviation in like a classroom environment, and that always kind of stuck with me. Really got into World War II history and seeing how aviation played a pivotal role in that. And then what's really funny is that in that class that I took, they showed us the maps and stuff. And before that, it was they didn't have tablets at the time for their EFBs. And so fast forward, I actually work for a major passenger airline now today. I don't know what the guidelines is for the company, so I'm not going to say it, but you can go and you'll find out.
Yeah.
And I support tablet EFBs now. So,
cool.
Cool.
No way.
Yeah. So
awesome.
I'm still part of hardware and support for technology supply chain for an airline. So it's been really kind of funny to see how that comes full circle. But I've been involved in some form of employment with aviation since my first internship with them in 2013. So it's been a long road, at least for my short life. But it's been that I would say is how I've been tied into it from personal interest of history and exposure in the classroom to actually now it is my career.
That's
amazing.
pretty awesome. I think when you mentioned, previously aviation didn't involve EFBs and tablets, Johnny shed a tear there because that's sort of the old school era he's from, right? I think Johnny has told us before when he first started flying, VORs just came about, so it's no, I'm just joking. He's not that old, but
I'm that old.
He's got an affinity for the old school way of doing things.
VORs were 10 years in. Just saying, not that old. I mean, we had lanterns still, but
they're
phasing them out.
You did your flight planning under candlelight, right?
Yes,
Gotcha.
in the Sexton.
And yep, I hear you. No, all jokes aside, Dwight, that's pretty cool. I think all of us are aviation enthusiasts sitting here today, and I think any chance that anyone has to be able to turn their hobby and their joy and their passion into something you do as a career is pretty remarkable. So that's pretty cool. Thomas, you've joined us again. Did you want to pick up from where you left off there previously?
Oh yeah, sure. So what was the last thing I said before you lost me?
Oh man, you started building it in the garage, and I don't remember much after that.
Okay, so yeah, I built, and I'll answer my aviation background too.
Cool.
Yeah, so I conceptualized the Yawman controller and put it together in my garage. Like I was etching circuit boards, I was wearing the Walter White get up and everything. My neighbor had questions, and I ensured them that I was doing something legal, and I found out pretty quickly as soon as we had a successful prototype that was the easy part, and manufacturing is just a whole different animal, and that's where a lot of the work has been done. And as we introduced earlier, this is something we're making in the USA. Which has a lot of benefits, and I'll let Dwight discuss that later if you want to ask him, since he's supply chain operations.
Right.
But my background with aviation, so I worked in the airline industry for a good 10 years or so. I was working in operations research primarily. That's more or less just running algorithms that maybe you could brand as AI, but really it's just building schedules, building networks, and trying to figure out, ticket fares and all of that as well. And I left the airline industry after 10 years to work on my side projects that were starting to turn into a full-time job. And one of those was teaching at University of Southern California in the aviation safety and security program. And as I started to interact with a lot of folks there, trying to develop a class, I had to do a deep dive into avionics. And that's when I started to get into flight simulation heavily again, because that was just like a quick, easy way to just understand avionics systems.
Right.
And so that one thing led to another. I realized I wanted to kind of minimize the amount of real estate that I was taking up on my desk. and you can imagine where the wheels start turning and developing this product, developing this handheld controller right here. So that's my aviation background.
That makes sense.
I'm actively involved in it as
cool.
well, and it's fun teaching at that program. And this has just been a side project that's increasingly gotten bigger and bigger and gotten more momentum. So it's exciting to talk about it.
Yeah, I think I think the timing, right, with the release of Microsoft Flight Sim 2020 and then bringing that to the console side of things, that wasn't necessarily there or an option or a real viable option for previous flight sims in the past. So I think the timing just really works out here as it relates to the need for a mobile sort of controller while still trying to maintain that level of immersive experience and level of control over an aircraft in a flight sim. It's just it's definitely innovative, something we've never had in the past, and I think it's an exceptional product, and we're all really looking forward to it. I think I probably want to segue into sort of, right, you mentioned from a supply chain standpoint, maybe Dwight, this is for you, sort of the benefits of being able to not only build and market in the States, but as it relates to the manufacturing and sort of all of the in and outs and the opportunities that present themselves because, right, you guys are doing most of your business here stateside. Can you elaborate a little bit and share a little bit about that one?
Yeah, absolutely. So when Thomas approached me to address, like, hey, is this a viable product that we could bring to market? How would you want to build that supply chain? And this was a time when, you watched the ports just being like so heavily backlogged, and seeing all of the lockdowns in Asia, like China specifically, and knowing how much basically all of consumer electronics departments or like companies were struggling, and looking at that, I'm like, okay, I think there's going to be a future trend because American supply chains have really overextended themselves into global supply chains that it's cheaper, but the volatility has become so severe now, especially as we watch the current events.
Right.
So we looked at different regions of the country. I currently reside in Indiana, and often viewed as, it's the Rust Belt. It's not as vibrant as it once was. And I've just been imagining, I'm like, they're going to come back. Supply chains will come back, or at least they're going to hedge as a strong fallback. And so we wanted to get ahead of that. And so I'm like, let's just establish, let's find suppliers that can manufacture, assemble, and ship. And after searching through various potential suppliers, kind of did my own informal RFP, we landed on a partner in Kentucky, and they have been fantastic. And so one of the coolest things was you've got it's the state of bourbon and derbies. I'm like, how can you more American than that? And
that's true.
And so they've been fantastic partners so far. They're like, yeah, when we've got some of our suppliers, like our second tier suppliers, who we've worked with for 20 plus years, and our injection mold guy is down the street from our initial turnkey supplier. Our molds, steel molds, are being made in Kentucky as well. We contracted several shops where we sent out bids. So we really wanted everything to be within the Midwest, or like the South. I know Kentucky is we're technically not Midwest, but they're right just south of the Ohio River. And so when building that whole supply chain, our idea was keep it central, keep it close. Even with UPS was potentially going to go on strike this week or last week, and they found a deal. But we're like, what does the logistics look like if that all freezes up?
Right.
And so we have now partnered with Sporties and they are selling our controller as well. So we're doing direct to consumer sales and Sporty's pilot shop. The beauty of from our supplier is that we can manufacture it and literally drive it an hour and a half north to Sporty's. And so we've kept a very, very tight supply chain where we have a lot of control and transparency. If we need to go visit for quality control, they can call me in the morning and I'm on site before lunch.
Yeah. That's huge. And Johnny, I think it was you who, and we don't have to name the manufacturer, but another huge manufacturer of flight sim hardware. You went on there recently and couldn't find any of their products, right? Almost everything was out of stock. And a lot of that is contributed to, again, you know, your supply chain and some of the other various operations within their group being so segmented and overseas and whatnot. So that's huge. That's huge for consumers. That's huge for you guys, obviously. Less headaches as it relates to running your operations. That's pretty remarkable. Pretty remarkable.
It is. And I imagine, you know, during the whole conception time too, just finding a supplier during like COVID and all that was difficult.
Yeah, especially as like, you know, everyone was backlogged. You know, you would have suppliers that were very hesitant to take you on because they're like, we have no parts. We can't.
Yeah, they can't give to the people they've already got.
Yeah, and one of our biggest concerns, like, you know, okay, what kind of black swan events could we expect? And COVID was one of them. We're like, okay, what's another black swan event? Well, you know, there's Taiwan. Like, what happens if that's the point? And if you're manufacturing in China and that happens, what does that mean if you're assembling finished products in anywhere in Asia at that point? Because the trade's going to be disrupted. If we're manufacturing finished products in the United States, we can at least manage a spare pool of supplies to keep ourselves going. And then we can modify our bill of materials to you know, change course. And we actually have runway to change course over time. And so that's a lot of our strategy of being able to build in the US. And some will comment like, well, isn't that more expensive? I'm like, well, yeah, but also China's labor costs are also increasing. And if you want to put anything on a container, at one point it was 3,400% above pre-COVID rates to ship.
Wow.
So now that's corrected, but what if it happens again?
Exactly.
So really what we're purchasing here is security. So we don't have our customers constantly asking, like, look, I gave you money. Like, when am I going to get it?
When am I going to get it?
Exactly.
And there was a ton of that going on. Yeah, there was a ton of that going on. I mean, all for it to come and sit in the port here at Long Beach. Stuff was
5 miles off
nowhere.
the coast.
And frankly, like, we're a small company. Like, we're not like a massive corporation. We don't have the pull with, you know, customs and you know, our container pulled. We're kind of at the mercy of, we'll get to it when we get to it.
Exactly. There's definitely some internal politics for sure. I mean, you hear some of the major company I work for, we deal with pretty much all of the major logistics operators there in the world, and you can definitely see the internal politics involved. And I think outside of the logistic implications, the fact that you guys are able to keep the business, keep business within the United States, I think actually speaks volumes for a lot of consumers as well. I think that's really cool.
Thank you.
So, you guys had the opportunity to attend Flight Sim Expo this year. Was that your first expo? Flight Sim Expo, I should say, specifically.
That is correct. Yeah, as a company, that was the first expo we did. Yeah,
for outside of the company, for you guys individually. Sorry, I should have specified. Sorry.
I'll admit,
your first one.
Yeah, I did not attend. We were actually my second child was 12 days old. So while Yawman is a baby, my daughter was the more important baby. So, but thank you.
Congrats. That's awesome. Okay.
So we'll let Thomas speak to FS Expo.
Yeah. I mean, I've been to a few expos before and spoke at some, but this was the first one where I was doing something flight sim hardware related.
Gotcha.
So it was a lot of fun. I remember Johnny. I remember seeing you. I remember there's a lot of. I remember your face. I remember interacting with your family and everything, and working at the Yawman Aero booth, and that was actually that was like one of my highlights that day. And
awesome.
it was a great expo. Even going into this business, there's part of me that says, this is kind of a niche thing. And then as soon as I went to the expo, that was a big affirmation. Like, whoa!
Fully blew the doors off mine.
Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah, so it was a great day. It was nonstop. It was busy, and the first day especially, I think we got a cumulative total of like 10 minutes of break time.
Wow.
It was busy. I was glad there was a steady pace and we weren't being mobbed excessively, but it was definitely nonstop.
Yeah, in your defense, it is we've been talking about this. It is a really niche hobby and community, but within the last 3 years, it has exploded. Record-breaking numbers across all flight sim platforms. Obviously, more specifically, Microsoft Flight Sim. But that expo was insane. I don't think anyone expected it to be that huge. But it was great, and I think not only the representation from here within the States, but we met so many folks that traveled all the way, from Asia or Europe Australia. 18-hour plus flights, 2 travel days, right, just to get there. It was remarkable, and we're looking forward to continuing to see that traction and that level of engagement and enthusiasm, and I think that's going to be great for you all's company as well.
Well, as all of us being aviation professionals, this is something we really like seeing, right? We like to see interest, not just in this hobby, but just it's a gateway to understanding and appreciating aviation, and especially for younger generations, that's why it's such a nice thing to see, and that's why, Johnny, seeing your kid flying, that was just so much fun to watch.
Oh, that was so awesome. That was one of my highlights too, right? He was
to pull him off.
I had a full flight lesson right there. It was awesome.
It was fun to give him the flight lesson and just give him the rundown. And what was just all the more validating for me is seeing the muscle memory. I'm assuming he held a gamepad before. I think he told me he did.
Oh yeah,
Xbox controller, PlayStation controller, and it was just amazing to see that muscle memory just transfer over. And I'm like, oh, this is fantastic. I love.
Oh yeah, so, for sure. I think that was one of the aspects that really piqued my interest. One, I do travel quite a bit, and as we all know, I'm a complete nerd in all things aviation, right? So I think it will be just absolutely amazing to have that ability to, take some simming with me on the go, right? So, the portability and just how intuitive the controls were, even for my 8-year-old, spoke volumes, guys, in regard as it relates to packing a desk full of peripherals onto a gamepad, right? What was the process in coming to, from what we see now, coming to fruition? I mean, I couldn't imagine just the way the thing, in my opinion, the way everything was oriented, I just could not have been better. What were some of the challenges that you ran into, Tom, just trying to brainstorm this, guy?
Okay, so one, thank you. I'm glad you love how everything's oriented. There was a lot of iterations behind it. So the one that we're manufacturing right now, it has this layout. It'll be a navy blue. One of the biggest decisions that I was trying to figure out, the first 2 prototypes I made at home, the trim was actually on the left side, not the right. Oh. And what I found though was I want to change the throttle more often than I want to change the trim. And here's the thing too, I ultimately realized not all aircraft use the trim wheel, and even aircraft that do have trim wheels have a trim button for you. So I was like, you can also just use the POV, the hat switch, hold down with a bumper or something to change the trim too. And so that was like one of those parts of the iteration. And, there was some design decisions early on. Like initially I was playing with 2 joysticks and I thought, oh, that takes up too many axes. And fun fact, to make a plug and play controller that works with Windows, Mac OS, and Android out of the box without having to install any specialized firmware, you're limited to 8 axes. So this one has 7.
Really?
Yeah. So this one has 7. So room for the future if we ever decide to do that. But I just wanted it to be simple. I just wanted it to be plug and play and not have to go through, all of these hurdles to just develop specialized firmware on whatever operating system it was on. And also have to go to all of the major simulator players and say, hey, can you develop specialized control support for this controller just because it has the axes in it?
Yeah.
So there was a lot of design and iteration. It started with me 3D printing and etching circuit boards in my garage because I just wanted to do the project myself to see if it was worth pursuing the idea. And initially I was trying, and what led to that was I was trying to use a game controller, and it just I was starting to make a laundry list of things that was missing for the purposes of flying.
Wow.
And as soon as I had that laundry list, and as soon as I came up with the vernier pulls and the trim, I told myself, darn it, I got to actually build this thing now because there might actually be something. And the thing I just got to figure out is if I'm making it for me, or if there's maybe a boutique product, or maybe even something even bigger than that. So, so I 3D printed, I etched my garage, I started to iterate designs. And then as soon as I had fully working prototypes, which one day we'll share them on social media later down the road, it was very validating. And I remember even handing it to Dwight, who's really not done flight simulation before. I was like, hey, fly this. And he actually was able to take off and land and had like zero drama doing it. And he was cruising through his,
I feel like it was a backhanded comment towards me. But I was the type who would like try to make flight sims work with like a mouse and keyboard, and I'm like, oh, screw this. Like I'm trying. And yeah, no, Thomas would like send me texts like pictures of what he was building, North Texas, and I'm like, oh, that's cool. I'm glad you're finding something to do during COVID. Great. He sent me a video where he actually lands it in Microsoft Flight Simulator, and I was like, wait, like it works? Like you're not doing like, just things that like, yeah. So it worked. And then I flew down there to go visit, and I did try it, and as someone who was just like, yeah, I'm not willing to make the investment in all the flight sim hardware yet,
right?
And
I don't like the mouse and keyboard and gamepad controller. Just it's not intuitive. This was intuitive, and so that got my buy-in of like, okay, yeah, let's go build this thing. What I thought was so funny though was how Thomas prototyped this thing. Like Thomas is like, I'm not going to like grow his ego too big here, but he's like when he starts building the prototype in a cave, just a lot less smooth. Sorry, Tom, I'm your brother. But so like he goes on Facebook Marketplace and finds circuit boards like in someone else's garage that they have like they're green, they look like they're from the 1980s. And,
holy smokes!
And like he's using wires and stuff, and yeah, so like he got supplies off of Facebook Marketplace.
Wow.
And bought himself to 3D print. He won't brag about this on his own, so that's why I'll say it.
That's awesome.
It was really impressive, and part of that is like, I kind of wish like American technology would go back to the garage like this. Because everything is like, everything is like, no offense to anyone who like some apps that have been built are amazing. But someone said it, I saw it posted somewhere, but they said, we need more tangible inventions. And I think that a lot of that innovation comes from garages. And there was a time where American innovation really thrived because it came from a garage. There was no bureaucratic red tape. There wasn't any crazy, venture capitalist funding and valuations. It was just build a product, make it work, and be profitable. so that you can go make and further that innovation. And I think that's what Thomas really accomplished here.
And I would challenge anybody, if you ever have like a hardware idea and you just have a little bit of curiosity, it's amazing what you can do in your garage. It really is. Like what I was saying, I went and bought copperclad off of Facebook Marketplace, and this stuff was from the Reagan era. And it was and I tried, and I just remember, and it was just fun to just like buy a toner printer from Best Buy and just use what do you call it? Nail polish remover and acetone to take the acid, to take it off the paper, magazine paper, and it leaves the tracks on the copperclad. And then you go to Home Depot, buy some muriatic acid, combine with some hydrogen peroxide. Wear safety equipment, of course, because that's stuff.
You were.
And the Department of Health is like, where does this guy live?
Exactly.
Somebody knocking on the garage door.
Well, it's used to clean swimming pools, so it's not necessarily like non-residential grade.
That's true.
Yeah, so I was wearing the respirator and everything, and the 3M respirator, and it was just amazing. It was just such a great feeling to have all that copper eaten away, except for what was under the tracks, under the toner. And then you just use the nail polish remover to remove it, and then you just have like a little yellow piece of fiberglass with copper tracks left. Wow. And you solder the components on, you take your 3D printed pieces, put them together. And it was just a good feeling. It's like this was built in my garage. This is fantastic. Now, not consumer grade, but it certainly works quite enough to say there might be a product here. I didn't have to go and hire 6 engineers to do it. I mean, that kind of stuff comes later.
Right.
Yeah, exactly.
Absolutely. Garage innovation for the win, just holy smokes. And when you look at all of the groundbreaking achievements that we have accomplished, I mean, my Lord, can we all talk about, just what Steve Jobs, right?
Yeah.
And it's just absolutely amazing. And just to say one more thing, as far as the how intuitive the thing is, I mean, my 8-year-old picked it up and it was just like, wow, boom, like he's owned it for weeks. So, but one thing I was curious on, Thomas. I remember you and I were speaking a little bit in Expo in regards to the compatibility for being that the hardware, the high performance hardware handheld market is starting to kind of rear their heads, I guess I should say. Has there been any looks at compatibility with Steam Decks or the I think the Republic of Gaming?
Rogue,
I can't think. That handheld.
Yeah, I can't remember the name of it either.
So the platforms we've tested on and confirmed that do work is PC, Windows, Mac OS, and Android. We have gotten questions about the Steam Deck and the Asus ROG device or whatever that. I know which one you're talking about.
Alley, I think it's Alley.
Is it the Alley? Okay, because
Rogue Alley.
Yeah, so we will have to test and confirm, but I think those all run some. Well, actually, the controller works on Linux as well, which a lot of those platforms are based off of. Sure. My answer is they should work, but we have to test it before we officially say so. But other platforms out there, those are the main ones. Is like the Mac OS, Windows, and Android. Those are the 3 ones.
For sure. Wide coverage indeed. So we're back to the garage here. So I can just imagine you. I mean, just you're a mad scientist right now, right? You're just trying to pull all these things together. And I have a wife and kids, so I understand the struggle. How is the family responding to all this? I mean,
I'm sure my wife watching this is laughing right now, but they have been absolutely supportive and amazing, and my wife has too. And I think she was I'm sure she was a little surprised, like, where did turning your garage into a fab, where did this come from? Because I've always been a software person, and there's always a joke, how many software engineers does it take to screw in a light bulb? And the answer is none. That's a hardware problem. And, and so it was a huge gap to learn how to do hardware. And it was a fun little challenge. And my wife has been immensely supportive of it. And I know that I was missed at times. I know that there was moments where I was like really busy and preoccupied with this, but this is just kind of what happens when you're starting to build something. Indeed. And thankfully I've had help too, bringing together a really great team, both inside Yawman and as well as some contractors on the outside that we're super grateful for their involvement. And it's a little weird, like taking my baby and handing it off and still being involved in some of the engineering decisions.
Right.
It's you realize how much this is a huge team effort. I mean, it takes supply chain and it takes marketing and it takes design, industrial design engineers, and it takes using a fabrication shop to kind of create parts that are a bit more close to what you get in production, and get the injection molding shaped up. Because with manufacturing, it's one thing to 3D print something, but just because you can 3D print it does not mean it will come out of an injection mold, which is how you make plastic parts, en mass.
Yeah.
And there's little things like draft angle you have to worry about. So if the part doesn't pop out because there's hooks and stuff in it, it's kind of like having a waffle maker that has hooks in it and you can't pop the waffle out because
got it. Yeah.
The same problem. And that's really
Right.
And there's a huge amount of art and industrial design expertise. And I'm grateful. There's one guy we brought on board, Matthew Perez, and I found him on YouTube because he just is a very generous guy. He likes to give information away about industrial design. He's like, I like this project. I would like to help out. And I was like, and he has been just an absolute phenomenal talent. It's just unreal how fast that guy works and
That's
how
awesome.
fast he iterates.
Holy
So
smokes.
yeah.
Wow.
That's man, I wish I had that level of ingenuity and innovation in me, but I'll leave it up to much smarter individuals like yourselves. Dwight, I kind of want to go back to flight sim for a second because Thomas mentioned you weren't really big into flight simming. I'd imagine now you're a little bit more involved with it, probably even testing out the product itself. Do you have a favorite aircraft that you fly in the sim these days?
So yeah, as you can imagine, I'm very beginner. Like honestly, still testing. Honestly, there were times where I did have a Yawman prototype, and then I would give it away immediately to engineers because I'm like, you guys are part of the critical path, and you're better than me, and this is much more useful in your hands for the sake of getting this to market than me having it. But I will say, just going back to basics, the Cessna 172 is just
for the win.
Yeah, it's really all I'm qualified to do to get off the ground, fly. I love flying around Indianapolis and Monument Circle, and I would actually do I did the flight out. So we did a business trip to Louisville, and one of my good friends lives down in Kentucky or just on the other side of the river in southern Indiana. And we were playing in his living room. We took a gaming laptop and plugged it into his TV. And so we're like playing in, with like a 60 inch. And we were flying from our supplier in Kentucky all the way up to Indianapolis where I live. And so like those are the pretty basic flights that I do. I'm not quite up to I'm more the beginner. If you talk to Thomas, he's got a lot more experience. John Ostrower, definitely he has like unlocked the potential. Like Thomas built it, and John's like, you know what you can do with this, right? And he's like,
we're sending this.
So like he stress tested this thing. He like accidentally is like, hey, good news. It'll survive a fall from a desk because it fell off. so John's really run it through the whole gamut of what it can do both physically and software wise. But yeah, Cessna, I'm super basic. I'm the supply chain guy. That's why they have me here.
Hey man, basic is good. Back to
got to move
fundamentals.
product.
That's
Yeah.
it.
Back to fundamentals. The old, you can't go wrong in the old Cessna. Johnny, I caught you a little serious joke over there underneath your breath, but it's all right. It's all right.
Whatever.
It's all good.
That's
Oh, I missed that. What was it? We got to hear this.
Oh yeah, man. Well, you know my my new best friend Dwight, since he's also, also into all things Cessna, right?
So I said that.
Yeah.
Mike wished he was in a Cessna yesterday.
Oh, it wasn't that bad, man.
We can get into
Being
that
engaged
later.
from when, huh?
It wasn't that bad. So I did a little evening flight yesterday, and the G1000 had some ICAS issues with some of the fuel flow and the power percentage transducer failure, I believe, on the Garmin. They're checking it out today, but nothing detrimental. It's all right,
Yeah.
Charlie. It's all right. I survived.
Hey, I got you, boy. I got you.
Oh man. I guess probably the next question I have for you guys is what does timelines look like as it relates to the product and even some of the upcoming things that you guys have that you're willing to share?
Yeah. So if there's anything that we've learned from the pandemic is to have soft timelines. Also, we don't want to push out a flawed product. So that's always been what kind of keeps me up at night. We don't want to ship out something just because we said we would ship it out on this date, and then we all of a sudden. So there's companies that are very, very good at the return process. Why? Because they do a lot of returns. I want us to be customer centric. If there's ever a customer who says, "I want you to return this," or like, "I want to return this," but it's because it's doing what's best for the customer, not because we do it a lot. And so with that being said, timelines. Currently we are slated to like if you go on Sporties, mid-August is when they are currently slated to have the Yawman in stock. We had some, if for those of you who played with the prototype at FS Expo, you'll notice that there was some minor sinking in the top of the controller. Functionally, did not impact at all how the controller operated. But obviously, like for a consumer product, that's a flaw. So we don't want that in there. And so we've been stress testing and looking at some of the cosmetic flaws. And so the beauty of having this made in the US, we don't have to ship molds back overseas. We don't have to wait for more for more parts to be shipped to us. So, we've been working with our supplier, our first tier supplier and second tier supplier, and our machine shops are really our third tier supplier in this whole process, all in the US. And so they are working to have those updates currently made. And the current schedule is to have mid-August. And so we'll let everyone know if that changes. But really it is, we are obsessed about making, if you're going to say it's made in the USA, it has to be a premium product. And so we're not going to rush anything out.
It's true.
And we have the close network and logistics to move things in a reasonable amount of time to make those changes. So that's our current stance is mid-August.
Cool.
Wow.
Too cool. As far as so I'm being that this is a handheld controller, I think this is just purely Johnny's opinion, so it's worth absolutely nothing. But those users who have limited space, things like that, or limited funds. As far as the price of this particular product, what's the price? What is the price point that we can be looking at?
Go ahead, Tom.
Oh, either of us can answer that. Yeah, so the MSRP, so the retailer price is going to be $249, and if you go on Sporties, you'll see that's the price that $249.99, which is the price that we've committed to. And the one thing to keep in mind too is that when you look at how much a full setup can cost, so getting the yokes,
exactly,
getting the pedals on the floor, and getting the throttle quadrants and everything, we really do believe the value proposition is there. And so and you don't want to, and I wouldn't compare it necessarily to a gamepad because there's so much more to this than just having that gamepad like form factor. It really is an uncompromised flight sim control solution. And of course I'm biased, but people who fly it, and I know, Johnny, I know you've flown this.
Absolutely.
There's this strange removal of the hardware kind of getting in your way of controlling. And I found, and again, like I said, I'm biased, but you find yourself not trying to remember what control does what and how that maps to this in the cockpit and that to the cockpit. It's just everything just kind of clicks and feels natural.
Right.
And most people, we've seen this a lot, where a lot of folks they look at the controller with some skepticism, but the moment they try it, they're like, wow, this feels really good. Like I actually never thought it was possible to fly a virtual plane on a real airplane. This is just unreal. So it's just nice to hear those kinds of reactions. We actually taken those meta photos of, John Estrada has taken photos of him flying the Yawman controller on a MacBook Air on a Boeing 737. So
following the plane on the SIDS and the stars, just like he is. That's cool.
Yeah. Cool. So yeah, $249.99 is the price point that's going to be retailed for.
Too cool. Yeah, and just to kind of, I'm sorry, Mike, you're totally about to say something. I slid right in there. But yeah, no, just to kind of chime in there. I totally agree, Thomas. I know when I first heard you guys, this was way back when the news first dropped, and me being the old salty dog I am, I was a little skeptical, not gonna lie, and I saw in the expo, you guys are going to be there. And so I definitely made a point. I'm like, I'm going to check these guys out because to your previous point, there's nothing else like it. If you want to get into flight simulation, you got to have a yoke. You got to have throttles. You got to have rudder pillows to have any sort of viable experience. And, that's not necessarily the case anymore. So, for, consumers like my little 8-year-old there, he can be in his room and me as the parent, I don't have to drop $600-700 for a honeycomb, or, anything like that. So, I think that was one of the questions that, some of our listeners was having, like, as far as, price point and things like that. So, no, I mean, like I said, we're definitely looking forward to it. We'll definitely post some links there in the description as well. I mean, it's Sporties, right? So everybody knows everyone knows where to find Sporties, right? So that's too cool.
And I'll add this as well. There's all of those, and I want to emphasize too, all of those rudder yokes and throttle quadrants, really freaking fantastic hardware, absolutely fun to use, and there. What we see is with this controller is just two markets: people who already have that stuff and want to go mobile with their favorite hobby, which I think there's a lot of people who fall in that camp because flight simmers love their hardware, and then there's also just folks like we were originally talking about, the people with like real estate issues, or people that don't want to invest in the full setup and everything. So, and I just want to just put that out there to emphasize all the HOTAS yokes, rudder pedals, all just wonderful hardware. Hope to have one in my attic or something one day. But currently sharing my house with my wife and 2 kids. This is one of those inventions.
Absolutely. Yeah, that totally makes sense. I mean, all of those peripherals have their place, right? So and especially like for me, of course I have the full setup, but I travel on a weekly basis. So there's times I may have some time in a hotel or whatever, or it may be someone with, to your point, Thomas, with real estate issues, where this is a very good solution for them. So all good points there. Sorry for the previous interception there, Mike. What were we going to say there, my friend?
No, I mean, I think you guys covered it all. It beyond, I think, Thomas mentioned, for folks that already have all the hardware, sometimes even when you have all the hardware, you're still looking for a viable solution to take it on the road, like Johnny just mentioned, right? He travels a lot for work, but even just coming home from a busy day or whatever it is you may be doing, and I've got a bunch of stuff here, right? And I gotta take this off to connect this one and switch out this because I'm flying an Airbus and not a Boeing today, and it's just a lot of work. And you can just grab a console familiar like controller to still sort of provide that same level of experience is bar none something we've never seen before. And again, I'm super excited for the product.
Well, yeah, and I'm gonna piggyback off of that, and some folks just don't want the hassle of setting up the Bravos and the Alphas. Yes. You know what I'm saying? You spend a new plane drops and the first hour and a half you're trying to set up your peripherals.
Minimum.
Exactly. Minimum.
Don't let it be DCS.
Just hopefully somebody's done dropped a profile on .2 before you get home.
Oh my gosh, Charlie. Oh my gosh. I'm sorry. I'm gonna say this. I'm not as far as outside of the compatibility issues or whatever, but DCS, you're there for days. I love my DCS, but you're there for days. Oh, Lord, yes,
bro.
Yeah,
it's bad.
It's bad.
Wow.
Yeah. Once you set up, good.
Everything.
Oh,
one of the things though that I do, sorry Tom, I just in real quick. One of the things that we do want to have, like, what is the mission of our company, and we want to be a gateway to ultimately the larger, more invested flight hardware peripherals. For those who are a little intimidated, who aren't ready, that like they would eventually go buy Honeycomb or Thrustmaster, and then ultimately, at some point, like, I mean, the country is currently experiencing a major pilot shortage. So if we can kind of be that gateway of hardware to the gateway of the hardware that gets you to wanting to be a pilot, we would love to be a part of that revolution too, of making flight sim hardware more, lowering that barrier, and then ultimately leading to the greater investments to becoming a pilot.
Absolutely, inspiring the 8-year-old that can just pick it up and go flying.
Exactly, awesome. and now bugging his dad for a flight sim. Yeah, thanks. Oh my!
I was going to add too. So just, I don't want to go all ShamWow guy sales pitch on you.
But there's more.
I haven't heard that one.
One more thing.
There's one more thing.
You can use it with your, when you're in the living room with your family. And actually, this is the folks over Overkill Simulations. One of them actually mentioned, like, this is actually kind of nice because I can flight sim downstairs near my family in the living room or on the kitchen table or something, but not seclude myself in the attic where my whole rig is upstairs.
Yeah.
And that really resonated with me because that was actually one of my original motivations too, is like, I didn't want to shut myself in my office either. I kind of wanted to be, near my family, near my wife, near my kids somewhat, and make that compromise. Like, well, at least I'm physically there and they can watch.
Right.
Yeah. And then my son will come. Well, he's 2. He will bring me the controller, a controller, whether it's an Xbox controller or the Yawman controller, and hand it to me because he wants to watch me fly. Yep. So it's fun. It's one of those things too. It's like, it allows you to kind of be more part of the world. You can take it with you to a coffee shop, which I've done several times, and it's just a really cool, surreal thing. It's like, am I really
decompressed during work sprints?
Yeah.
Right.
Exactly.
I've done that too. Cool. It's like, I have 15 minutes. I'm a little burnt out. I'm going to just flight sim for 15 minutes. And you can feed those little impulses. Yeah. There was a good acronym that our colleague John Estrao came up with, OTP, not on-time performance like us aviation folks know. It's opportunities to play, or opportunity. And there's a lot more of those when you have something like this. It's like true. You can fit in 15 minutes, 20 minutes here and there, and not have to
HDMI cable with you wherever you go, because if there's a larger screen, you can plug into
it in.
Yep.
Yeah, absolutely. What I do at my friend's house.
Absolutely. I mean, we all struggle with that. I mean, I know I do. I get home from work. Yeah, I really want to go send something, but I don't want to come out here, fire everything. Spend 30 minutes, you know.
I'm telling you, it's a process.
Just grab it, get in the 172, and like you said, fly 15 minutes and you're done.
Yep. Absolutely. Like sometimes
while sitting on the couch.
Right. You know, I mean, I'm telling you, sometimes my sim rig, it might as well be parked in a hangar in an airport. I mean, it takes
absolutely
as much effort to do that. It's like, oh my gosh, I'm like,
I ain't going out there. No. It's like 20 feet from the couch, you know.
Literally.
I'm not going out there.
Gosh, our first world problems, Charlie. Goodness
gracious. Man. But that's awesome.
For sure. Too cool. So I guess as far as you know, the release and everything, and I know you guys are getting prepped for that. After, you know, I know eventually, you know, it'll be released and you guys, you know, will, you know, that project will be kind of, you know, not put behind you, but kind of, you know, not as a priority, right? But as far as Yawman, what's next?
So we really want to think this is just the beginning. We really do. So we have this controller. We're very, very vested in it. We want this. We need this controller to succeed. But we realize that there's a huge ecosystem out there, and it's changing and growing. And there's a lot more folks interested in flight simulation, and we would like to keep chasing that. I mean, we would like to keep chasing flight simulation, and we have no intention of you know, one hit wonder is a great deal, and if we achieve that, that's something. But we don't want to be just that. We really want it to be not just a product, but a company, and we really want to lean into this strength of handheld flight simulation controllers. So we're not done. And I will say that much. We are not done. We see that the flight simulation ecosystem is changing. It's growing, and there's a lot more. Very quickly.
Very quickly.
And there's a lot more folks in getting interested in flight simulation from every walk of life and every background. And we just want to be there to help enable people and not have reluctance to pick it up. So
bingo.
So we have no intention of being done.
We've heard tons of feedback, and we have written it all down. So we're aware of
the need,
of the preferences, of the ask, of the needs. It would be cool if we could do this. Like we are currently that is queued up, and we're going to evaluate all of that feedback. So you know, if those, you know, when it comes to like changing, or like, well, you need to do this, and like the cost of changing a mold will delay it'll stop the product launch.
Right.
And so
it takes time.
Exactly. And so you literally have to go back to R&D, you know, but you know, rest assured to everyone we've talked to in person, we've seen on social media, like all of their feedback has been heard. It's been taken note of, and we will see what we can do to pursue some of those suggestions.
And to me, that speaks volumes for, you know, you guys as a newer company coming into the space, that you're listening to the consumers. But there's a lot of folks that don't do that. That's important.
Too many, unfortunately. Oh no, that's I think. Listen, at the end of the day, we just saw Steve. First of all, welcome. Good to see you, Steve from High Performance. And he tried it out at Infinite Flight booth at Expo. It was very nice. So, again, I think to everyone's point, the sentiment and the outlook is great, and everyone just cannot wait to get their hands on it. Segueing just a little bit here, because I know my two pals have we just talked about how flight sim is ever changing, and it feels like every week there's a new product launch, whether it's scenery, aircraft,
daily, almost
utility, hardware, almost daily too. Yeah. The Comanche, the A2A Comanche for Microsoft Flight Sim 2020 was recently released. What was that? A week ago now? 5 days ago? I can't keep track.
About A week and 1 day. I was kidding.
Oh, that's right.
No,
week,
that's right.
week.
Yeah.
No,
Who's counting?
week,
8
1
days?
day, 23 hours, 5 minutes. Yeah.
I've done overhauled my engine.
Literally,
I'm not kidding.
The way to prove you've been flying it. Yeah, I believe you. I believe you. Sentiments, gents. Sentiments. I'll start with Charlie. What do you think about that aircraft in the sim?
Man, it's unreal. Like,
yeah.
It just, I can't describe it. I said it in the last show. There's no words. The feeling I get when I get in that thing.
Yeah.
I mean, really. And the fact they've already updated and it's been a week. Like
1.1. Yep.
1.1's already out. Boom.
Out. That's cool. Interesting. How about you, Johnny?
I don't know. I think we kind of covered this last weekend, but you weren't here. Yeah. Anyway, but
excuse me.
I was kidding. No, man. Actually, had with having it for a week and really taking the opportunity because you guys know release days are just chaotic. It's like, man, there was literally 5:30 in the morning. I'm about to go to work. And Charlie messages me, he's in the Eastern time. He's like, bro. And like Charlie always knows we're like, snoozing probably at the time he, gets ready to, he's ready to eat lunch or whatever. But,
time to feed the chickens.
Right. He's like, he's dropping the message. I'm like, holy, so I like get out of bed where my wife's freaking out, like, like someone's robbing the house or something. And I run into my office, download it, didn't get a chance to check it out. So having the week to actually really take the opportunity to, partake in all the features, and this, bite me, just saying, probably the highest fidelity single engine general aviation aircraft in sim, period.
Wow. That's saying something.
Yeah, that's saying something.
So that's cool, man. Imagine flying that with the Yawman.
Man, that's exactly what I'm sitting here thinking. Like, my little gaming
laptop, because all the controls are there. Right.
Yep. Watching TV with the fam, just exactly what Mr. Thomas said. Like,
yeah.
It is a good feeling. It's like, man, I'm just here jamming on my coffee table, flight simming in full control of a plane or helicopter, and just still here with my family. And you know what? If your kids get interested in it, even better.
Even better.
Needs more people
exactly.
In it.
And we've had questions about the helicopter and can the Yawman control it, and John has been a huge advocate of saying, like some were skeptical, and John said you might be pleasantly surprised, like how well it translates over.
Oh, really? Yep. See, Steve, there you go, man. Steve Performance Group there. Yeah. So, especially with the H145 there. Oh my Lord! Since you guys don't mess with it, I still mess with it, but but yeah, just the ability to to have that option there, and you're blasting it on the bit screen there is just phenomenal. Holy smokes!
Yeah, if you go on Microsoft Flight Simulator, if you had a controller, you plug it in, Microsoft Flight Simulator already recognizes it and it loads 3 different profiles. There's one for general aviation. There's another one for jets, and then there's another one for helicopters. And Microsoft developed all 3 of them. There's still some iteration going on with the control schemas, but the helicopter application is there, and you can expect there to be a very strong guideline out of the box on how to use it.
Wow,
nice,
too cool.
And I'll give you guys a fun scoop on, and we'll say it here first, but we also we are internationally trademarked, and we also have our design patent approved.
Oh, that's huge, man.
Yes, congrats. Yeah.
So this is the first place that we're saying it publicly.
Cool.
But,
you guys heard it here first.
Heard it here.
But here first.
Oh, that's awesome. That's awesome. Thanks for sharing that. And again, for those that, oh my gosh, we're an hour in already. for those that just joined or recently joined, we are on with Thomas and Dwight from the Yawman team. It's been a great conversation, just really talking through the inception of the product, how things are going, and what's to come. And obviously, we couldn't let anyone off without them giving a background as it relates to their aviation life and interest and whatnot. So pretty cool. If you guys have any questions for us or Thomas or Dwight, you guys know where the chat is. obviously, you can check out Yawman at yawmanflight.com. Head on over to Sporties as well. Again, you're able to pick up the or order the hardware there for $249, $59 or $99, I believe. $99. And then again, soft dates here, but they are looking at a mid-August timeline. So that is pretty exciting. It
is.
For sure.
Dwight, Thomas, any thanks for dropping that bomb on us, by the way. That's pretty cool. That's pretty huge.
That's pretty cool.
Anything else up your sleeves that you want to share with us or the team before we depart here?
That's definitely the big one. Yeah.
Cool. No, that's awesome.
Well, this was a lot of fun. I hope you guys will have us on again. At some point in the future, because this was a really great hangout. Anything else that and you wanted to ask us, or anybody else in the comments want to ask us? We're happy to answer. But otherwise, I'll just pass back to you. Not take any more of your screencast time.
It's been a pleasure talking to all three of you, and definitely enjoyed it. So I mean, yeah, it's been a little over an hour, but it feels like it was like maybe 20 minutes. So
it does. We just go.
That's when you know you're doing good.
Yeah. That's why you know it's enjoyable. Yeah,
that's right.
And no one-time guest is a one-time guest on the Closed Traffic Podcast. Once you guys are on, it's family, and you're always welcome to come on, even if it's a last minute thing. Hey, man, I've got something to share with you and your audience.
Yep.
Again, we share in true CTP fashion. We've got no sort of schedule or agenda.
We're dropping live in 10 minutes. Let's go.
When it's time to send it.
Man, where's my shirt? Hold on.
Where's the mic?
We joke.
Thankfully, we don't treat our flight planning or anything like that in the real world.
No FAA, we're good.
No FAA, we're good. We're good. We actually
100% legit
abide by 91-203. But the podcast itself, anything goes, man. We just go. Anyways, enough banter. Again, I appreciate everyone for taking the time to join us here. Thomas and Dwight, it's been a pleasure. Charlie, any parting words for our folks here in the audience?
Everybody just stay safe, take care, and we'll catch you on the next one.
And go dogs.
Go dogs. Woof, woof.
How about you, Johnny?
Hey, just say.
Hey, yeah. Not a whole lot. Just spay and neuter your animals and keep the blue side up. It's it's always nice to have speed and altitude. Try to keep one of those. Take care of yourselves and each other. That's all I got.
Oh man. All right, folks. Take care. We'll see you.